The top two teams in the Metro Division, the Carolina Hurricanes and New York Rangers, will face off in the second round of the playoffs. We'll take a look at this matchup and preview this series between two teams coming off big Game 7 wins. Let's go! Hey everybody, it is time once again for a second round series preview for this year's Stanley Cup Playoffs, and today we're going to be taking a look at the Carolina Hurricanes versus New York Rangers matchup. Surely one that is going to be very close and very hard fought, as pretty much every series at this point in the playoffs is going to be. I mean, these teams are here for a reason. They're both coming off big Game 7 wins to win their Round 1 series. And now they're going to match up against each other. The top two teams in the Metro Division from the regular season now facing off for a chance to go to the conference final. So let's take a look at it here. Look at the Canes and the Rangers. Carolina, the 1 seed in this situation, went 54, 20, and 8, 116 points in the regular season. They won the Metro Division, finishing first, and played the Rangers very well in the regular season, going 3-1-0 versus New York in their matchups. They're also coming off a huge 7-game series win over the Boston Bruins. That was definitely a hard-fought one, not easy to do, but they won Game 7. They got the job done and advanced to round number 2. Carolina was a pretty good offensive team, but great defensive team in the regular season. 3.38 goals for per game, which was 9th best in the NHL, and 2.44 goals against per game, which was best in the NHL in the regular season. In the playoffs, that trend has kind of continued. Very similar numbers. 3.43 goals for per game in the playoffs, which is 6th best among playoff teams, and 2.86 goals against per game in the postseason, which is 6th best among playoff teams. Obviously, the goals against went up a little, but don't forget, Freddie Anderson, their starting goaltender, has not played in the postseason. It's been all Antti Raanta, and Pyotr Kochetkov played a little bit as well, but it's been mostly Antti Raanta in goal for Carolina, and the goals against number is still very, very good. As far as special teams go, not quite as easy of a time on special teams against the Bruins in round 1 as in the regular season. Back in the earlier in the year, 22% on the power play in the regular season, which was 12th best in the NHL. 88% on the penalty kill, which was best in the league to go along with their league best defense as a whole. However, it's kind of dropped off a little bit special teams-wise in the playoffs so far for Carolina. Just 13.9% on the power play, which was 12th among the 16 playoff teams, and 79.3% on the PK, which is 8th among playoff teams. So special teams play for Carolina could definitely be a little bit better, but overall, their 5-on-5, their offense, their overall defense, that's kind of trended similar in the postseason as it was in the regular season. Switching over now to the other side of things, the New York Rangers, 52, 24, and 6 in the regular season, 110 points. They finished second in the Metro. Struggled against the Hurricanes, though, winning just 1 out of the 4 games against Carolina, going 1-3-0 against them this year. However, they are coming off a huge Game 7 win over the Pittsburgh Penguins that saw them advance to this second round and get into this matchup. And it was a long, hard, very tough series for the Rangers. They had a lot of ups and downs in this series, but at the end of the day, they got an overtime game-winning goal in Game 7 and moved on now to face Carolina. 3.05 goals for per game for the Rangers in the regular season. That was 16th in the NHL, so kind of middle-of-the-road offense. That offense has really picked up in the playoffs, scoring 4 goals a game in round number 1 against the Penguins. 3rd best goals for per game out of any of the 16 playoff teams this year. Now, obviously, Pittsburgh's goaltending situation and injury situation had a lot to do with that. They weren't facing a number 1 goalie until Tristan Jarry played Game 7, and Jarry was playing injured in Game number 7. they saw Casey DeSmith and a lot of Louis Domingue in that first round. And I think, that goals for is high because they weren't facing high-level goaltending, top-level goaltending. But Frederik Andersen is still out for Carolina. So once again, the Rangers are playing a team without their number one goaltender. So we'll see how that offense holds up against Antti Raanta and the Canes in round number 2. In the regular season, the New York Rangers gave up the second fewest goals, just 2.49 goals against per game, second best in the league, and very, very good defensively and goaltending-wise with the Rangers, really good at keeping the puck out of their net. However, Pittsburgh was certainly able to score on them in round 1. They gave up 4.14 goals against per game in the first round. 15th out of the 16 playoff teams in the playoffs this year. Igor Shesterkin had some really, really rough games. Got it together at the end when they needed him the most, and obviously was able to still win the series, but did have some rough games in there. And they're obviously going to want to keep the puck out of the net a lot better here in round 2 than they did in round number 1. It's funny, if you look at these teams in the regular season, they were the two best defensive teams as far as keeping the puck out of their net. Both giving up less than 2.5 goals a game. But that they've both given up more goals in the playoffs than they did in the regular season, and the Rangers by a lot. So we'll see if that trend continues here in this round. Special teams wise, 25.2% on the power play in the regular season, which was 4th best in the NHL. 31.6% on the power play in round number 1 against Pittsburgh. 3rd highest percentage in the league in the playoffs this year. And obviously, spectacular number there. If your power play is operating over 30%, you are doing a really good job. Penalty kills taking a dip, though. 82.3% on the PK in the regular season, which was 7th best in the NHL, down to 73.9% on the PK in the playoffs, and that is 11th out of the 16 playoff teams. So that's an area that's kind of taken a dip, as has their entire goals against in general. They've given up a lot more goals in the playoffs than they did in the regular season. But this is going to be a very interesting series. You would, if this was first round going into it, looking at their regular season numbers, you would expect it to be a really, really low scoring series. Maybe a goalie duel, a lot of 2-1 games. But both of these teams have scored more and given up more in the playoffs. So the Canes had a lot more higher scoring games in the postseason so far than they did in the regular season, as far as just how often their games have gotten higher scores, and the Rangers as well. I mean, these are teams that coming out of first round series that were not low scoring, to say the least. So maybe we don't see a low scoring series here. Could definitely see some pucks in the net. Both teams are certainly very, very talented. And, or maybe it does kind of revert back to that regular season style and the scores do stay kind of low. But I have a feeling we're going to see some goals in this series. I don't think we're going to see the regular season goals against numbers from these teams. I think we're going to see more of to each of these teams scoring, 3 to 3.5 goals per game. And we're going to have some games with 6, 7, 8 goals in them in this series. So should be a really fun one. Very tight matchup. Obviously, the Rangers are a young team. That's kind of been the one big knock against New York in these playoffs, is the inexperience. Obviously, they were able to overcome that in round 1. We'll see if they can do it again in round 2, or if Carolina, who's the higher seed and the team that is expected to win, is able to get the job done, take care of business, and move on to the conference final and face off against whoever advances between the Lightning and the Panthers. So this should be a fun series, should be a good one. And as far as the prediction goes, I am leaning Hurricanes here. Nothing against the Rangers. I'm actually quite happy to see the Rangers here in the second round. But at the end of the day, I think Carolina's got more playoff experience. They've got, they've got guys that have played in the postseason in one series but haven't been able to make it all the way yet, are going to be really hungry for that. And they're coming off a big series win that was not an easy one to get. They had to really dig down deep and win that one in 7, as did the Rangers as well. But I think experience is definitely going to play a role here. And I trust the Hurricanes to hold together defensively more than the Rangers. And I think if that happens, then the Hurricanes are going to win the series. So I'm going to say Carolina in 6 here. I do think it will be a close series. It should be some really good games. But I think Carolina, their experience and their better defense is going to hold down the fort, and they're going to take this in 6 games. So that is my preview for the Carolina Hurricanes versus New York Rangers second-round matchup. Thank you guys so much for watching. And with that, please don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe, follow on social media. All those links are down in the description. If you'd like to further support the channel, the links to our merchandise store, membership, and donation links are down in the description as well. Keep spreading the word about this channel. Let's keep this thing growing. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll talk to you guys soon.